Hey everyone, this is Anna here, and I just wanted to show you my new area where I have my wheel now. It's in my sunroom, so I'm starting the year in a new place because I'm having a hard time getting my two-car garage studio to get warm enough for me. Um, I have an issue. Actually a medical issue that makes me really sensitive to cold. I don't have a thyroid, so it's almost like I don't have a thermostat on my body. So I hate being cold. I'm very sensitive to it. So my garage was taking too long to warm up in the winter. I do have a split unit that has, AC and heater, but even if I would turn early in the morning, it wouldn't get warm until like noon. So it's a large space. It's actually considered a 2.5 car garage. It's a large one. So I do love my studio, but it was just taking too long. I do have my sunroom here. I talked to my husband. He didn't mind that I take a little corner here to work on the wheel. And I thought this was the best solution because we're already heating that every day because I do have plants here. We run the heater all the time, and it stays warm. Even though I'm gonna turn you around to see, even though it's glass all around, we have windows here, but it's pretty new. All the windows are new, insulated, energy efficient windows and sliding door. And yeah, it stays very comfortable, and I'm not complaining because I do have a nice view to, while I'm throwing. I love just wow, looking at my view. So I'm gonna turn you around just for you to see a little bit of where I work at now. So this is my corner right here, as you can see. I do have one of my plants here, but so far nothing has gotten really dirty. As you can see, I know I posted this on Clay Bodies on Facebook, and somebody mentioned, how are you going to keep these windows clean? But so far, there's nothing on the window. Um, I do clean, I am a very clean thrower. And that comes from just a side little story. On my other house, for a while, right when I started and I had my studio in my garage, I didn't have running water. It took me about 2 to 3 years to actually get a plumber and getting someone to connect water. And even when I connected, I had cold water. We didn't have hot water running in the garage. But for those 2 to 3 years, I learned how to work just using buckets of water. And because of that, it's funny how you get some things that you learn out of necessity. So I learned to be a really clean thrower because I hated having to just use buckets of water. So when I throw now, I throw with very little water, and that has stuck with me ever since. So I always say I got something good just out of necessity. And then once I had running water, even though it was cold water only, it was just a world of difference, right? It's so good when you have running water in a workspace like that. You really need it. So, but anyways, I am a really clean thrower. I usually don't get things on my legs or anything like that. I'm not trying to brag. It's just how I am. I know some people really splashes clay everywhere, and that I think is because I throw with very little water, and that way it doesn't splash everywhere. The clay. But anyways, this is my patio in one side of the house. So we just recently added the patio. As you can see, my hammock there was my one of my Christmas presents. I love hammock. I used to have one in my old house, and I really needed one. It's one of those things that once you have it, it's like you want to have what you had before. So I love hammocks, especially like not in the winter, right? But luckily, we only have 2 months of winter here in Georgia, so it's not too bad. But I do enjoy. I even have gone out there when it's cold, and just it's a nice place to relax and meditate. So that was my one of my Christmas presents. This I love gardening, as you can see. I've done all the landscaping myself in my entire house. I take care of the garden and landscaping. Um, this is my backyard. I'll turn you on around slowly so you can see. I do have a nice view, so I'm not complaining. And this year, by the way, I'll put a link. I got this for Christmas. This is one of the best, what do you say, the gadgets that hold your phone. I hope I can show you here. There's a place here to hold your phone, right where this ring of light is. And then there is another place here where I'm holding my phone now with this, so I can't really show you, but it's a tube that comes out and it holds your phone right over your work. So I'm really enjoying this. It's the best one I've had so far. One of those iPhone holders. This one here wasn't as good, so I haven't even been using that one. Once I got this one, it's so much better. So that was from Amazon. I am gonna put a link of that here. It has been working just really good for me. Anyways, continuing on, this part of my sunroom, as you can see, the other side with the sliding door that goes to another patio. And we're on a pretty large lot, wooded, which is really nice, but I have been landscaping slowly the back there. So I do have a nice view. I sit right here and I look, to my backyard. So I'm not complaining. And that's just the other side of my sunroom that goes into my house, my living room right here. And this door goes to my dining room right here. So it's a nice setup, and I put a little table here where I can set all my work that I'm working on recently right here. This is my clay that I already wedged, so I'm gonna work on these today. My mini schnauzer Lulu enjoying the swing sofa that we have right there. Um, anyways, I'm gonna set my phone down again. And I do want to talk to you about some of the glazes that I mix, and mostly for beginners, people that have never mixed a glaze. I really wanted to explain some things that I do because I've been there. I've been to that point that I was on the fence of either, do I really want to start mixing my own glazes or not? And I'll talk about some of those points and see if maybe I can um, take some of the fear of mixing glazes from you guys. So a few questions you could ask is, why should I start mixing my own glazes? Is it cost? Is it because you don't like some of the commercial glazes out there? You want to find new colors, or um, you just want something more reliable, or there are so many questions, right? And I know if you're just starting now, you might be like I was a few years ago, where I was really skeptical about mixing my own glazes. I know we all have sort of an addiction to glazes because you're always looking for that perfect glaze. That's how I was, at least. Even with the commercial glazes, I wasn't getting some of the results I wanted to. Even though now I do own commercial glazes. And another thing is you can kind of mix them together, like on the same piece. You can have, part of it, you can have your mixed glaze, and then on top, you might want to add some fluxes and add some commercial glazes to drip over your mixed glazes. So you can do so many things. It's not like if you use mixed glazes, that's all you can use. You can't mix them, but you can. Another thing is, I do think it is much cheaper to when you own your own raw materials to mix your own glazes. So I'm going to give you an example. Just recently, right before Christmas, I bought from one of the pottery suppliers online. I bought a mixed glaze, but it's in powder form, dry form, not a pint, so the minimum amount is 5 pounds, which I have it here and I'll show you what it makes, like about 2 gallons, and I'll show you here where I use. So this is a 2-gallon bucket that I use, and I got coastal blue, which was actually, I saw it from Hobble Creek Pottery. Tiffany, thank you so much for showing this glaze. This is a 2-gallon bucket that I got from, was either Amazon or Temu, and I can put the link for it. What I like about it is that the tip of the lid screws on, as you can see, and easy to open. Not like some other ones that you have to really pull really hard to get it to latch, or to tighten. You just kind of press it, and then you have a hard time peeling it off. So I do like these screw-on lids. Anyways, you can see maybe it's up to here. So I filled up about half of these. Was that a 2-gallon or 5-gallon? I'll put that on my description. I thought it was 2-gallon, but it seems like it's too little, but it might be a 5. But anyways, 5 pounds of dry glaze makes about this much, because I really haven't used this on a pot. All I've done is test it on a little test tile. So I've used very little. So it is still pretty full, and that was about it up to here on this bucket. So that's what it makes. So this cost me, without tax, was $28 for 5 pounds of this already mixed dry form glaze. If you're not ready to start buying all kinds of different raw materials to make different glazes, you can start by having your pottery supplier mix a recipe for you. And I don't know if all pottery suppliers do that. I know the one here that we have in Atlanta, Georgia, they do mix it. The supplier is called Davin Ceramics. They're great. I'm so thankful that we have this place here close to us. It takes me about 45 minutes to get there, 40 minutes, depending on the traffic, but they're just great. And they charge a small fee to mix the glaze for you. So what you do is you email them the recipe, and they charge, let's say, from $10 to $15, I think it was. It's been a while since they mixed one for me, because that's how I started until I started buying my own raw materials to make my own. But if you don't want to buy that, you can have your pottery supplier. You can ask them if they'll do that. So they'll charge a small fee to mix that recipe for you. And then what they do is they charge for the amount of the raw materials they use, that they weigh it, and they will charge, accordingly, which it comes out pretty cheap. I would say definitely a fraction of what you buy, already mixed glazes, and then you just go there and pick it up. Or I don't know if they will mail for you. You could, if you don't have one that would do, you can always call Davin's Ceramic Supply and see if they'll ship it. I'm not sure. I always go there and buy my own stuff. So with that said, I do want to talk about 2 of my favorite glazes that, if you don't mix them yet, would be the 2 that I recommend, because with these 2 glazes, you can make a whole lot of other glazes with the same recipe, just using different colorants or oxides to make new colors. And I am gonna put on the description the recipe that I use, because in one of them, I tweaked one of the materials that they use, because, so let me just tell you what it is. One is Seltzer Chun, it's called. It's from John Britt's book called Mid Range, or Exploring Mid Range, if you're not familiar with it. that's a great book for you to learn about glazes, and it's got tons of recipes. This is one of my favorite glazes because it works really well with porcelain. And as you know, porcelain is known to have like crazing issues with porcelain. That's just the nature of the beast, I guess. A lot of the glazes would craze, and that's people mostly complain about that. So it's okay if it crazes on the outside of a piece. I don't have an issue with that a lot. In fact, I do like the crackle that happens. I do use crackle glazes on porcelain. I love that effect. But inside, as a liner glaze, you don't want your glaze to craze because of bacteria. Even though there are a lot of people who uses glazes that craze, and I was told that it's okay as long as you put it on the dishwasher, it gets sanitized or whatever. Um, but I don't feel comfortable doing it. I do have some that I test here for my own use. So I do make a lot of my cups or mugs that I keep it to myself. So that's the only way I know of that you can check for durability, usage of your pieces. You can put it through dishwasher, microwave, and just using. I have pieces that I've used now for years, and that's how I can test to see, okay, how does this glaze behave after a couple years of usage? Are they all crazed inside? And are they holding up by you using like maybe a spoon that are they being scratched by utensils? Or if you make a plate or a bowl, are they being scratched by that? Or if you're using a knife, do they get all that wear? So that's one way of testing. Another way I test is for uh, leaching by using some you can do the lemon test. I don't know if you guys know about that. You can put a lemon at the bottom of a pot or something, or a bowl, whatever you make, and you cut a slice of lemon, put it there, and leave it for, I don't know, a couple of days. That's how I use it. But if you can read about it, there are instructions on how you can test for leaching or discoloring of the glaze. So if that happens, that means it's not good to use as a liner glaze. So you can test it that way. Another thing you could test for is to see if it crazes. You can test that right away. You can add hot water to a piece, dump the hot water, put it on the microwave, let it boil, then add some ice to really cause that shock of temperature. And you can see if it's going to craze, it would happen right there, rather than sometimes it takes a while for a glaze to craze. So by doing that test, you would know right away if you would do it or not. So that Seltzer Chun glaze, it's a great glaze so far, at least for me, um, because it works for porcelain. It doesn't craze on porcelain. I use it mostly for as a liner glaze, so it won't craze, and it works also great on other stoneware. Like I have a speckle brown stoneware. I have other um, white stoneware that have worked really well, and I've learned to tweak the colorant. So you have the basic recipe, which I'm gonna post it, and then you can. I have like four revisions of this glaze that I learned to make it a different color. The only ones I haven't tried yet is making it more of a blue purple color using cobalt. I haven't tried that yet, but I've tried making the recipe they called for uses copper carbonate, which makes it a real nice turquoise. So the turquoise one is this one. So this one I made a planter for myself, and on a speckle brown clay body. and it gives this real nice turquoise. It's a very stable glaze, but it also plays really well if you want to layer. So you might want to use the stable glazes on the bottom of your pot so you can dip it, and then you can use other glazes that run. So that helps for the runny glazes to stop and not run off of your pot. So this is a real nice turquoise glaze. Um, but it also works well. Like on this mug here, I kept it because I broke off the Monstera leaves that I keep a lot of my pieces that don't work out so well, that has a defect. So I keep them for the reason what I mentioned before, just for testing the durability of the glaze. So hope you can see the nice turquoise is a very glossy, very nice uh, turquoise glaze. And I will put the recipe with my all my revisions that I've done to get the colors that I'm showing you here. So basically, I tried the turquoise and the creamy white glaze. So this one has a real nice uh, creamy white glaze, the same glaze, but using a different colorant. So to get omitting the copper carbonate and adding, I believe it was Zircopax or tin that makes the glaze white. So that's what I'm saying. If you get the ingredients for one glaze, you can just tweak the colorants to make it a different color of glaze. So I have here, it's a little messy. I'm gonna just show you here, but I am gonna, there is a method to my madness here where I have the basic recipe and then I write on the bottom here, so this would be the basic one I called R1, revision one. Then revision two, I add, some other colorant, revision three. So I have all the way to revision four right here, and I will tell you all these revisions, what I've done. Um, and I can show you on my test tiles. Let me see. Usually I put the main glaze in one side and then I try something else more drippy on the other side. So here is just the basic seltzer chun. Look how nice it is. As a glossy glaze, nice liner glaze, and nice also for an outside if you want to use it. This is the same one for, let's see. Yeah, so this is the same one on a speckle brown clay. And you can see the difference there. And I also tried, so if they call for 3% copper carbonate, I've also tried 2%. So it's a turquoise, but not as a strong turquoise color. So it gives it a more subtle turquoise, a lighter turquoise glaze. This is the same. I have to see what one is R2 and R1 and R2. I have to see what the difference is here, but there's a slight difference. And then this one is the creamy white one, which is hard to see. It's almost like a white color, but I have done one that is more of a creamy color. And I did that by using yellow, what is it, yellow blue rutile or light blue rutile, something like that, that makes it a very nice creamy color. So great for a liner glaze if you just want to use a light color inside of your mug or something. So that's the same glaze on porcelain. Yeah, this is on porcelain. No crazing in here. And then this one, yeah, I believe this one is kind of a small test style, but this is an S Seltzer Chun R2, just a lighter. I believe on R2 I used the 2% instead of a 3% copper carbonate, and it's a lighter turquoise. Very nice. So that's what I'm saying. This would be a great glaze for you guys to start with if you want a reliable liner glaze, or even if you like to use that as on the outside of your pot, it works either way, and it plays nicely with other glazes. Here I used um, strontium crystal magic, which is almost like a flux. I used that. I don't know if I'm capturing this on the pic on the video here, and this is over the seltzer chun, and you can see how you still have the runs. It runs over really nicely. So this glaze plays nicely for layering as well, if you want to try that. So moving on to another glaze that I tried, which is I use it a lot. So this here is just painted with under glazes, and it's carved. That's a carved mug. And I use, on top of that, I use Kitten's Clear, which is also from John Britt's book. And to me, that's my favorite clear glaze. And it works well on porcelain, which is this. It works well on other stoneware, which I've tested also. It works really nicely. And the only thing that I've seen some people complain is that it cannot be thick, the application. So what I do is I do a quick dip in and out, and that's it. Don't You can't be holding too long when you dip it, and then it will be like a thick glaze. It won't work, because what happens is you get like those dimples in the glaze. Sometimes it crawls, so it's a little finicky, but once you know how to do it, once you know how to apply that glaze, it works wonders. Like it does work over any underglazes. So that's what I use it for. Um, so this is another glaze that right now, like, so here I just use the clear, but I have tested this glaze, Kitten's Clear. You can make your own celadon glazes using the same recipe, just with different colorants. Like you can use small amounts, or I can even tell you the percentage that I use to make other colors. So you would be making like the celadon version of the same Kitten's Clear, but with a color. So here is a beautiful green and celadon, and I used Bermuda. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's called Bermuda Mason stain. You can see how nice it is. A really nice green. And then on the back, I used, was it robin's egg? I believe it's called robin's egg Mason stain. Nice blue. Almost looks like very similar to this turquoise, just a little bit lighter and translucent. So this one is more opaque. That's the seltzer chan. The Kitten's Clear, because it is a clear glaze. When you add the colorant, like your Mason stain, it just gives that real nice celadon. So you can make all kinds of different celadon glaze with one recipe, just making it, just changing it, and test it first. Test to see what percentage works for you. The more you put it, the darker it's gonna be. You can make pink, purple, just look at the different Mason stains. But because I am a blue and green person, I love blues and greens. So I tested this one out. The one that I was hoping to work out really well that didn't was the mango. There is a mango Mason stain that for some reason I cannot get that to work to a nice color that even resembles mango. So I haven't been successful with that. I do want to try, like maybe for spring and summer colors, like a nice orange peachy color. So I need to do a little bit more experiment with that and see what Mason stains would give me that nice orange, color. Um, So these also make a good liner glaze, the Kitten's Clear. And like I said before, I am gonna give you the recipe. If you don't own John Britt's book, I would suggest buying that book because it does have a whole lot of recipes there that are just great. I'm only giving you two of my favorite glazes that are very reliable as a liner glaze and as using a glaze that you can even overlay with layer with commercial glazes. You can apply flux to run over those glazes, so it's like an endless possibility. um, and I hope that you guys will lose that fear, because believe me, I was there before. I started out by just having, my supplier mix the glaze for me until I realized, I said, you know what? That is going to save me some money in the long run if I kept all my raw materials. And I am going to have a video just to show you where I keep all my raw materials, and I have a little talk about that also. But once you have the basics that you see, every recipe uses kind of like the same type of ingredients, um, and then just having the different colorants. Um, and then you realize you have mainly all the ingredients to make even different glazes. So it is an investment up front. They are not, I don't find that expensive, the raw materials. And some of them they can sell by 1 pound minimum. And some other materials, they might have like a 5 pound limit, minimum limit to buy. Um, can't remember if it is silica, but silica and FSI are the ones that, when you look at a recipe, they're using those the most. So those two I try to buy in more of a 5 pound at a time, because 5 pounds is quite a bit. And then the other ones that are not used a whole lot on glazes, I try to buy lesser amounts, like I don't know, some Fritz, that uses sometimes just a little bit compared to all the other ingredients. So you can buy like a pound or two of other ingredients, and then you can have your copper carb, your as far as for the color, the cobalt, and different ones like RIO, red iron oxide. You have your yellow iron oxide, blue rutile, but just small amounts. Like I have them in smaller containers, because those, as you can see, like it's got like 2%, of something, or 1% of the colorant. So those you won't need a whole lot, and they'll last you years. Um, I have those raw materials now for, gosh, I can't even remember now when was the last time I bought new ones. Like I said, I do buy more of the ones that we use the most. And then once you have that, you can pretty much experiment with other recipes. But I'm just giving you two of my favorite ones. So here is the two shelves here where I keep all my raw materials, the bigger buckets here, which I believe I got it even from either from Temu or Amazon. They're great because the lids, they screw on, rather than the ones that you press, and I have a hard time popping those off. So I'm trying to get all the screw on lids for these containers, even that smaller one here. And they work great for small amounts of glazes that you make. Um, so I can put the link for those. They weren't that expensive, and definitely a plus to have the screw-on lids, like even the smaller ones here that I have empty. Those are great for small amounts of glazes that you want to test it. Uh, but what I wanted to tell you is that all these raw materials here, I feel like I have now the essentials for making, gosh, many glazes that I see, recipes that I want to try. I basically have, I don't think I have a glaze that I have, to go out and buy a certain material anymore. I think I have pretty much everything. even my colorants like the oxides and whatnot. I have plenty of those. Whenever I feel like I'm getting low on the ones that you use the most, which is like nephsite is the bulk of the glaze, or silica. Uh, Frit, you don't usually use a whole lot. So you have to see when you look at a glaze recipe, what is the ingredient that you buy the most, that uses the most. So I would say these two are the ones that you buy the most. That's why I have napside here, and then I spilled over to another container. But if I'm running low on those, I'll go ahead and replenish those. But I've had those now for, uh, gosh, I think few years now, and I've been using off and on to make new glazes. Even like a same recipe that I want to tweak the colors and make a new color. So I have everything that I need here, and you can see that it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. I know the investment is bigger up front, but they last so long that you can keep those and just make glazes as you like, throughout the year. And that's it. I hope you guys learned something from me for these glazes. If you want to try, mixing your own to lose your fear, feel free to ask me questions. I am going to post the recipe and all my revisions where you can get different colors with the same recipe, and that would save you some money, especially if you produce a lot. Like I'm definitely not a production potter. I work on small batches at a time because I spend so much time decorating something like this. I carve, I sculpt things. So I could never be a production potter. And I still think it's worth, because I use a lot of I want to use something that is very reliable for, at least for liner glazes. The outside I'm not as worried about. I do want something to work out well, but if I do have a little crazy, which I haven't yet, with these two glazes that I mentioned, if I do get a little bit, I'm not as worried as I would be if I start getting crazy on the inside of the mug. So those two are my favorites, but there are others like oh, I didn't bring it here. I have another pot that I have another glaze here. So here's another example of another glaze from John Britt's book called Celso Oribe. And it's a very nice green celadon glaze. And it plays nicely with other, like if you want to layer. And I applied this thin. I kept this for me because it was just a cup. I never really had time. I wanted to make a mug, and then it got too late for me to attach the handle. And then I just carved a little bit, and I said, you know what, I'm going to use it as a tester. But if you see how here is a Castile Blue by Laguna, which is a commercial glaze, and here is Celso Oribe from John Britt's book. The recipe is there. If you'd like, you guys can let me know, and I'll also post this recipe here. But it's a wonderful, kind of like celadon, deeper green glaze. And it also plays nicely with other glazes. Now, I would say this one does have some crazing sometimes. So I wouldn't use this as a liner glaze, but it's wonderful for using it on carved areas or relief work, especially if you're doing leaves and such. It works really well. So that's another one of my favorites. So anyways, there are so many glazes on that book that you can try. I'm just giving you a few that I've tested and I liked. So I brought another piece that I made a long time ago when I was still kind of learning how to even hand build stuff like this. Like I said, I don't do much hand building, but this piece is glazed with Panama blue, and that is from John Britt's book. Um, it's unfortunately have a lot of glare here, but look at the type of blue green that it's just wonderful. And this is on red clay, and I'll show you the other side how red it is, the clay I used. But it's just a beautiful kind of mottled color. Like it's not like a real solid. It does some different things here when it's on top of the clay, and it shows a little bit of the texture here. It's not quite all translucent, and it's not all opaque either. So it's like a little bit of both. If you were on the fence of either mixing glazes or not, just to lose that fear, I would really recommend you start by having someone mix it for you and pay the small fee. It's still going to be cheaper than for you to buy glaze somewhere else. And then you go from there. If you really like it, then you can continue and invest a little bit on some of the materials, and that way you will see a big difference in cost. Like it's definitely much cheaper than buying glazes, and it's gonna last you longer, than even buying the pints now. They're so expensive. So if you'd compare buying a pint of glaze, um, you could probably make a whole 5 pounds. You can buy a 5 pounds of the glaze materials, and it would probably be even cheaper than the pint that you buy. So that's my recommendation. I'm not saying for you to, give up all the glazes, but you can definitely have those glazes as maybe you want something that is very good as a liner glaze. And what I do sometimes, because my pieces are heavily decorated on the outside, like, something like this, definitely I use something that I pour inside. So I usually pour first the glaze that I'm going to use as a liner glaze. I pour inside, let it dry, and then I just work on the outside. And maybe I go like this and dip it on my clear, when the glaze comes up to here. And then I just go like this and dip it on the rim, and I'm done. But definitely using something as a liner glaze is quicker, right? You can just pour instead of brushing it, and then you can decorate your piece on the outside. So you will save money. I can tell you that for sure. Especially if you do, you might produce a lot more than I do, as far as work goes. Some people are production potters. You definitely, if you are production potter, you will see that, it is much, much cheaper to mix your own glaze. So that's my tip for today. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. And hopefully, I'll be posting some of the stuff that I'm making here, which they're all wheel thrown right now. They're drying, but I am going to show you. I'm making a lot of pieces that are going to be decorated with cuerda seca. So this is one batch. I'm going to have another one coming that is going to be carved and sculpted with some animals and stuff on the front of the mug. So I'm excited to share. These are all the pieces that I'm making now. They're going to the gallery. I'm not going to have a shop update probably until after April, I think, because I'm making a lot of pieces for the gallery. So I'm busy with that. But I am excited to share with you all the pieces that I'm making. So I will be posting some more work soon. And have a wonderful day, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.